Well, hi everybody. This is DearMamaSal, and we are live. And welcome to the broadcast. For those of you who are new, let me just explain what we're going to do. And also for those of you who might be watching on the replay later, we're going to spend the first little while doing some news, views, and updates. And then we are going to get on to the topic of today. And today, as usual on a Friday evening, we're going to talk about emotional intelligence. And I'm talking a bit more about our self-awareness. And then after we've had a little chat about that, I'm going to do some quotes from Louise Hay, who wrote a very well-known book called You Can Heal Your Life, which I thought might be of interest to some of you if you've never come across her. And I will put the link to that on the DearMamaSal.com page where I put the resources. So just so that you know, that's where it'll be. While we're just starting off here, I wanted to just say that we've got some birthdays. Tomorrow we've got Maria's birthday. If those of you who've been around for quite a while will probably remember Maria. It's her birthday tomorrow. And then later on in the month, we've got Erin's on the 26th and then Becca's on the 28th. So that's just so that you can remember whose birthdays are coming up. And, you know, as an extended family, we like to try and make sure that we keep everybody informed as best we can. And if for any reason we haven't got you on our list, please make sure you let me know so that I can acknowledge your birthday somewhere in the week that you have it anyway. Hi, Jody. Good to see you. And we are going to just talk about some thoughts and prayers. We've got Lauren still in hospital. And she will be hopefully coming out not in the not too distant future. And then we also have Lauren's mum still in hospital, which is sad. And Jody, I haven't heard an update on mum. Did we hear anything more? Excuse me, everybody. I just need to plug in my tablet before it runs out of juice. And that's difficult to do without my eyes on. There we go. All right, so no update on mum. All right, fine. So I think she has some back problems, if I remember correctly. So let's just wish her well. Other than that, I certainly would appreciate some thoughts and prayers for myself. For those of you who can spare a few, I had a CAT scan done this week. And whilst I am praying that everything will be clear, because I have no reason to believe otherwise, I certainly would appreciate any additional help on that one. So, do I have any other news? Yes, I did hear from Oz, for those of you who are Oz fans. And he seems to be fine. He's still in Indonesia, and we had a bit of a chuckle. We're in contact. What other news do I have? Hi, Kimmy. Good to see you. For those of you who know Nyasha, I was really pleased at lunchtime. She came in, and she managed to cook a meal, which, you know, is something that she had wanted to do for so long. And for some of you, you might not understand that that's not easy for her because she is almost totally blind. And so for her to be able to cook a meal was a major achievement, and we were just all so proud of her. I hear that Beth's daughter, you know, with her knee injury, for those of you who remember that, she probably is going to have surgery on it in the next couple of weeks. So that's very sad to hear as well. So we wish her well. And I'm just trying to think if there's any other news that I haven't talked about. Oh, the weather. Yeah, Isabel is with us, and she was telling me that it's going to be -40, or it is -40 in Quebec at the moment. And she's actually outside Quebec. She's about 5 hours away in Lac Saint-Jean. But I thought I thought you'd like to know that -40 is not a temperature I do in my life. You know what I mean? Gets to -10 and I've had it right there. So -40 to me is pretty horrific. And I can only pray that the hi there, Nana. I can only pray that the hydro, as we call it here in Canada, the electricity holds up, and that you will be safe and warm. There's lots of snow where Kim is as well. Okay. So, Jody, any update on what you're expecting in New Hampshire? Yeah, I believe there's a nasty little cold front coming through, and I just don't want it here. It's raining here. That's fine. I can do rain. Rain, I understand. It's wet. That white stuff I don't get at all. So anyway, for those of you who might not have seen the videos, just let you know there are 3 new vlogs up. One where I was on my way to have the CAT scan done. And then the other one, which talked about the CAT scan itself, in case anybody's never had one and wanted to know what happens. And then I did a third one about some of the achievements that I managed this week. I am also going to write a blog about my experiences in the first couple of months of being diabetic, because I think it may be helpful, and hopefully that I will be able to tell you how I've lost weight. And if I will do the update officially tomorrow, but I think I am down close to 4 pounds already, which is wonderful. I'm very happy with that. But my goal is to be 5 pounds down by the end of the month. So we're going to see. All right. So Jody's saying they're expecting 20 plus inches of snow. Are you serious? By Sunday? Yikes. How much snow, Isabel? You didn't mention that. Well, it'll be awesome when I achieve it, Jody. I appreciate that. I certainly believe that it will be awesome when I achieve it. All right, so Kimmy's saying she had an MRI and she didn't realize she was scared of small spaces. So you've got some sort of claustrophobia. I was actually quite surprised, Kim, that they didn't sort of have a very big tunnel. I mean, I went into a tunnel, but it was actually I didn't mention that on the video, but it was actually quite small. So they were really, you sort of went in, it did it, and it immediately pulled you out. And then you went back in and did it, and it pulled you straight out again. So I think that was a much better way than putting you down a tunnel and keeping you there for maybe 10 minutes. And so each time the bed automatically pulled you out, so you were out of the tunnel, and then it pushed you back in again. So Jody is in New Hampshire. There are 3 storms coming in for the next 7 days. That sounds wonderful. And Kim, when do you get the results from your MRI? Jody, can you make a note that Kimmy had an MRI for me? And for those of you who don't know why I'm delegating that, Jody is our wonderful admin, and what she does is she keeps notes for me during the broadcast so I can keep on talking, and then she feeds them back for me at the end of the broadcast so that I can do some follow-ups on them. So I think I was actually quite pleasantly surprised with the CAT scan, just so that you know that. And if you're interested in it, there is a video about it in terms of what happened. Yeah. So to me, it's like it's all, a learning experience. I wanted to talk a bit about it because, as you might have, if you've watched the video, you might have heard that that I actually was feeling very calm going. I actually was very under control, I thought. And yet, when I actually got to the hospital, things started to happen that made me realize that at some level, subconsciously, I was not quite as calm. I started to drop things, and I didn't just drop one thing. I dropped 3 things in a row. You know what I mean? And so that made me realize that, apparently my mind was not as clear all the way through. And do you remember that I was saying to you all, I'm just going to put this on a board so we can remember, because I think when we can see this graphically, it makes more sense. Oh, that's not a pen that's working very well, so I'll get another one out. Just bear with me. Okay, and that is okay. I really do want to explain this because I think this is going to help people. I don't know if you know, but any of the thoughts you have has to go through your emotional part of your brain before it can get to the rational part of your brain. And so what I found was I thought I was totally irrational, but there was part of me still in emotional. And that was the part that was dropping things. It was, it was shaky, and it was obviously a little bit more emotionally involved than I thought. But if you can understand that that's the way that our mind works, which is, have any of, and I want you to talk a bit more about that when we talk about emotional intelligence, is that part of when you can understand these things, it makes a lot more sense. Because have any of you noticed that when you get a little bit emotionally upset, it takes a while for you to get through that emotion and then get into that processing stage, which is your rational mind? Have any of you noticed that you start off being upset and not being able to think? And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a second, but I just wanted to know if any of you relate to that, and if so, be ready with your story. Kim asks, what did they say about my scan? I don't know yet. I will find out on the 29th. That's when I have an appointment with my specialist. So that's a little while to go yet. Yeah, so it's really important, and part of what I'm wanted to do with today's broadcast, because we talk about emotional intelligence on a Friday evening, I wanted to talk a little bit more around that. And so, if nobody else has got any news that they want to add to the story, I could start moving right along into that. Does anybody else have any other news that we want to share? I'm trying to think. If any of I can't remember if anybody sent me news this week. I don't think so. But maybe as people come in, if they have news, they will just update us, and we'll just add it in. that sort of makes it work, right? All right. So, Jody, I'm going to call a time here for 14 minutes as we go into this, and the whole thing about the first step about emotional intelligence is to be self-aware. And we did a series about this a couple of weeks ago, and now I just want to continue with that. And so part of being self-aware is to notice what we do. All right. And so therefore, do you have any patterns that you have when you get emotionally upset? I've noticed, for example, hi, Becca. I've noticed, for example, that when I get overwhelmed, I don't know if any of you will relate to this. When I get overwhelmed, I actually walk from room to room and wonder what I'm doing. Have any of you ever done that, where you're going, wait a minute, I've just come into this room, but why have I come here? And then I'll have to go back to the previous room and rethink about why I started. And the truth was, I am overwhelmed. And so I haven't got the process working properly. Oh, Kimmy relates to that. Well, I thought I'd mention that because I had a feeling I probably wasn't the only one. And I have to work really hard at getting out of that state and into reality. The other thing I notice, and I don't know about uh, you guys, but there are certain things I do when I'm stressed, other than find myself walking around aimlessly. Oh, Jody says she nervously chatters. Yes, I totally relate to that. So you understand this is part of self awareness. Be aware that you do it. And also, give the people around you who love you dearly a permission to let you know you're doing it, because you probably don't even realize you're doing it. You know that I'm in serious trouble when I start baking. I don't know why that is, but one of my coping mechanisms when I'm totally overwhelmed is to bake. And I don't normally bake. So you understand it's sort of a big heads up for me. If I suddenly find I've got the oven on and I'm mixing up cake batter or something, I'm going, oh. And I literally stop myself and think, okay, what's going on that I'm doing this? Because if you like, the baking is a distraction away from what I need to be thinking about. And so, do any of you have any other funny things that you do when you're stressed? When I say funny, oh, Jody's saying when she starts to make lasagna, look out. Okay. That's, it's interesting, isn't it? And so part of self awareness is to know that you do it. And it's probably, um, that we all have our version of it, but just know what it is for you. Okay, Kimmy starts to clean when she gets overwhelmed. Yes, I know somebody else who, when they get angry, they start to clean. It's a great thing to teach anybody, I think. So one of the things that they recommend is that uh, constantly check in with your feelings when you're doing things. All right. So when you see yourself doing something strange, you just check in and go, wait a minute, why am I doing this? What am I feeling? Because normally it's a feeling that's associated with it, right? It's an emotional thing. It's not a rational thing. It's an emotional thing. It's either a procrastination thing. I'm scared of something, so I'm going to procrastinate now and start baking, or I'm fearful that I'm going to get really angry if I talk about this. So what I do is I will just, Jody, if you start chit chattering, you've probably got a good reason for doing the chit chattering. It's to deflect away from what you're really thinking. So be aware of that. The other thing that they talked about within the emotional intelligence thing was to say, what are your values? Right? So do any of you know what your values are? Because they're different for different people. And I've got three questions. Number one, do you know what your values are? Yeah. So Kimmy says that, oh, I got cramp in my toe. Ah, my foot. Oh, that is painful. I believe standing on it helps. Hang on a second. Whoa. Yikes, that's sore. All right, that's a bit better. Soon. It will be better soon, right? Anyway, so Kim's saying that her stomach gets really upset. Yes, I've got to stand again, people. Sorry. That's really quite nasty. So Kimmy's saying that her stomach gets upset. Yes, and different people have different physical reactions. And that's why I wanted to talk a bit about Louise Hay, because she talks about the physical reactions that we have related to parts of our bodies, which is good. Um, Pickle juice for the cramps. Well, if you think I'm going to find pickle juice right now, you can think again, Isabel, but merci beaucoup. And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to have that now. One of the joys of being diabetic, it's really quite funny. I keep looking at things and going, I don't think I'm allowed to have that anymore, or not until I get myself under control anyway. So think about your values. Can anybody give me some values that they have? And the interesting thing is to know what your values are, because it affects the way in which you process things. Um, If you could think of 3 values that would be associated, that would be associated with you. Let me think. What are mine? That's another pen that doesn't want to work. Spent too much time playing around there. There we go. All right, that's one of mine. By the way, if you don't know what your values are, think about what drives you insane and then think of the opposite of that. Yeah. All right, so I've got justice on mine. I've got loyalty, honesty, integrity. Wait a minute, and I forgot another one. That's an emotion. So the important reason why you need to know what your values are is because you've got a good reason for having those values. Does it make sense that if you lived a whole life with everybody around you being very fair and just, you probably wouldn't have justice as an issue. And does that make sense? I've always found that, you got to look at it and go, if I had enough of this, I probably wouldn't have it as a value. And then, if you take loyalty, all right, if all my life people had been loyal to me, and kept their marriage vows or whatever, I probably wouldn't have loyalty as a value. That's the way I look at it. Honesty. I value honesty because there are very few people who are honest, in my view, right? And then integrity. That's that word that means different things to different people. For me, integrity is what you think is what you say is what you do. And so, yeah. So the question that they asked about your values is this. So think about what your values are. The question is, what caused you to have them? So Jody, you were saying honesty. What caused you to have honesty as a value? Is it because you saw a good role model of it, or is it because people, were not honest with you? Okay, so Nana's saying honesty, privacy, or privacy, depending which country you come from, and family. So you understand that it's important to understand and to understand why you have those values. So Jody, any idea why you have honesty as a value? Is it because you saw the role model of it? Yeah, you see, you saw it because you had a beautiful role model growing up. Okay, no problem. And Nana, honesty, is that because you had a good role model of it, or is it because you didn't have a good role model of it and you've come to appreciate it, because of the opposite? Which is my case, right? The reason I like honesty is people weren't very honest with me in my life, and I really appreciate people who can be honest with me now. You had a good role model. Okay, that's excellent. Good. So it's really good to look at your values and ask yourself, what caused me to have them? It's okay, Jody, I saw past the typo. I know you better. So you look at it and go, some of our values we have chosen because we had a good role model. Some of them we've chosen because we didn't. So look at why you have the values you do. And the next question is, do you want to change them? Right? Because sometimes you have values that you may want to update. And how often do you look at your values and ask yourself, do I still want to keep this as one of my major values? Or, do I have other things that I want to bring up in my life? I think, yeah, it's interesting, Kimmy. I have to say justice because so often in my life, I will go out to fight for the underdog. Do you know what I mean? Even at the risk of my own reputation or at the risk of being liked or whatever. I will actually, that is part of my nature to fight for what I believe is right and just, in my view. It doesn't mean that I'm right. It's just in my view, this is what I consider to be just. And so think about your values and think about whether you want to change any of them, because it is your choice to change them. And if any of you have had an opportunity where you have changed your values, um, let me know so that we can see how that works. I must admit that I'm about to give you one that isn't very friendly, I guess. I used to have marriage as a value. I truly believed in marriage. I believed in the marriage vows, and I believed in all that was in the marriage vows. And then I had 2 marriages that went south because they didn't believe in the marriage vows. And then I was in a relationship with somebody who disrespected the vows as well. And so I don't know if that makes sense to anybody. I stopped having marriage as a value after that. This was like, no. I now know marriage does not equal value. Yeah, but Nana, to do that, you have to have both parties willing to get help, right? And I, in both cases, was in situations where the men actually thought they didn't have a problem, I did. And so, to me, that is like, I learned very quickly that it takes 2 people to fix a marriage, not 1. And so I really, yeah, most, yeah. But it was funny because I really must say that I changed my view about marriage then. It's not that I don't believe it's possible, because I got wonderful role models like you and Jody and other people in my life that show me that, that some marriages, really do honor and obey, and not necessarily obey, but they have the right values. But it's not been my experience. I managed to attract quite the wrong sort for me, and that was my error because of where I was in my life at that time. I'm not blaming them, I'm blaming myself on this one. But it's not a blame, because I learned so much from it. So anyway, so that was the first thing. Do you know what your values are, and do you know that you can change them if you choose to? Now, here's the next thing. I know this sounds strange for some of you, but pretend that I'd never met you, and I'm going to meet you tomorrow morning about half an hour after you get up. What will I know about you if I meet you half an hour after you get up in the morning? Now, if you met me half an hour after I get up in the morning, you would find out that I am not a morning person. As some people here know, I do not start functioning until I've had my second cup of coffee, not the first. The first only gets me talking. I actually typed a message to Benji this morning while I was drinking my first cup of coffee, and I read it about half an hour later and burst out laughing, because I obviously wasn't, those brain cells were not going in the right direction at that time. And, it was so bad I didn't even notice the mistake. Right. So Isabel says that if you met me half an hour after I woke up, you'd find out I'm not very social and that I need coffee. Yeah. How would you be dressed half an hour after you wake up in the morning? I would still be in my jammies. It takes me about an hour at least before I even consider getting out of my jammies. So you'd probably, find out that and I think it's interesting because some people really do pop out of bed and they're get on with the day. All right, so Jody's saying with her 2 marbles don't work before coffee either, and she'd be in her jammies and playing with the fluff ball, right? Her dog. So yes, so that's your priority in the morning. is coffee and the fluff ball. And mine is coffee. Okay, Becca, enjoy the replay, honey. And by the way, I know you've got a birthday coming up soon, so we'll keep track of that. Right. And so what do you drink? That's what we'd find out about you. You're not a coffee drinker. So what do you drink when you get up in the morning, Nana? Right. Kimmy needs her milk and oatmeal in the morning. Yes, I did acknowledge both of those earlier, Becca, for the people who came in when we started. Yeah. So, Nana, you'd find out that Nana is a tea drinker. And do you drink your tea with milk and sugar? No, you don't have sugar. But do you take it with milk or black? Right. Beth makes her bed as soon as she gets up, tidies up the house before she allows herself to have coffee. So what do we know about Beth? I'm not very surprised about that somehow. I'd be tired watching Beth first thing in the morning. I know that. I'd have to go back to bed again. Yeah. So I'd like to just say that, be aware of what you project at different times of the day. Right. So Beth can't actually relax with her coffee. It's her reward almost for having cleared everything up. How many of you clear the house up absolutely beautifully before you go to bed at night? And therefore get up to a perfectly clean house anyway. I've got a feeling that Beth probably does. But it's interesting how different people do different things. Right. And so be aware of what you do. Now, what do you think about people who don't do that? What do you think about people who leave stuff in the sink? Yes, Isabel does as well. She has more energy at night. Just I'm a night person as well. So, the question is, do you judge people who do it differently? And if so, why? Right? Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting that Jodie's saying she starts sort of ticking around about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah, I totally relate to that. All right, so Beth says, I project pure panic because I need to get my bed made. It's terrible when my husband sleeps in and I want to kick him out of the bed. I have my routine to do, lol. Yeah, you see, it's like, yes, Beth, you have your routine. God forbid anybody else has one, but your routine is the one that has to rule, right? It's really cute. I need you to start looking at this a lot because it's come up a number of times that, your needs are more important than anybody else's in that household. And I think it's cute. All right, so Kimmy's saying she cleans before she goes to bed and she gets up in the morning and cleans again. All right. And I did see your comment earlier, Kimmy, about getting married. And I'm certain you're not the only one that felt that way. So just be aware. Now then, let me ask you another question. Do you have a place in your house where when you sit there, you feel energized? Or do you have a place in your house when you sit there, you feel more depressed? And I say that because what I found is that I am getting more aware of certain places in my house are more filled with energy than others. Have any of you found that? So if I used to, do what I needed to do, and then I'd go back to my bedroom to rest. All right, you get depressed in the wintertime, all right? That is SAD syndrome. Are you taking vitamin D, Kimmy? I used to have SAD syndrome as well until I started taking vitamin D all year round, and then I didn't struggle with it anymore. And I want to tell you, it really affected me. I came from sunshine in Africa to the BC fall, winter, spring, and just went, oh my gosh, does the sun ever come out in this godforsaken place? And I found out it does. And it's beautiful when it does. And I love it now. So be aware of what places in your house, if any, are positive for you and which ones are negative, because they will affect your emotions. Right. So Jody's saying, I've always said that our living room has a wonderful vibe in the room. You haven't found any place in your, that is particularly depressing. And yet some people I have noticed, that when they sit in certain places, I've noticed some visitors of mine. Most people who suffer from SAD syndrome have low vitamin D, and that's why I tell them, start taking it. Hi, Niasha. Good to see you. All right. So Beth's saying she feels energized in her kitchen. Right. And she says she feels depressed on her days off. It's hard to switch to slow mode versus the high mode of working. Interesting. Yes, because it's not natural for you, right? You prefer to be going at a very high vibration. Very interesting. All right, so be aware. This is what self-awareness is all about. And work out how you're going to adjust that, or do you want to adjust that? Now, the other thing is we all meet people in our lives that upset us if we're human. And I wondered how many of you now can be aware that this person probably is a mirror of you in some way? Are you self-aware enough to be able to go, that person really messed with my brain. Now let me work out why. And what do I have in common with this person? Do any of you do that? Because to my horror, I've been surprised how many times the things that upset me are in some strange way a reflection of moments in my life. And so now I try to look at everything that happens to me as a mirror, be good or bad. I see it as a mirror, and try and work through that and get more self-awareness by not just looking at my good points, of which I have many, but also seeing, where I am rude or where I am lacking compassion sometimes. And so I really recommend that you do it. By the way, if I sat and watched television with you, what would I know about you? Well, Jody's saying she understands the mirror thing now just because I made her aware of it. Yeah, it is amazing though, Jody, if you get really honest, how many times it's a mirror. And I keep going, when did I last do that to somebody? And I think, oh gosh, yes, I think I did that. It's because I'm not perfect, that's for sure. All right, so if I watched you watch television or watch a movie on your computer or however you watch your movies these days, what would I know about you? Okay, let's see what we got here. Anybody? What sort of television or movies do you like to watch? And do any of you find that depending on your mood, you like to watch different things? All right, so Jody's saying Jody knows that she talks during movies and she likes to have a snack during movies. Yep, and the Golden Girls would be on. All right? So you wouldn't learn anything from Kimmy because she doesn't have cable. But if you were to go out and watch a movie, Kimmy, what sort of movie do you like to watch? Remember, it's not the negative here, it's the positive. So if you go out and let's say you got an opportunity to go and see a movie this week, which one would you go and see and why? So um, I'm actually you watch Netflix. Okay, same thing. So what do you watch on Netflix? That's the modern day television. So what do you like to watch on Netflix? I was thinking about this when I was doing the prep for this broadcast, and I was thinking, I'm really messed up. If you saw my eclectic viewing, it really is quite funny. I watch a lot of forensic shows, things, um, uh, detective type things and forensic stuff. But then I will spend quite a lot of time on something like Father Brown, if any of you have watched that series. Um, so I've got this sort of two sides of me. Oh, okay, Isabel, give us the quote. If you came to my house, would you know what religion I follow? No, except if you talk to me, you would. I don't have any visible signs. Now, you got me into the Hallmark movies, Jody, over Christmas. I have to tell you, I really hadn't watched um I really hadn't watched Hallmark movies, but I did watch a number of them over the Christmas time. And so, and what I wanted, I think you remember my comment was I didn't realize there were that many single eligible princes in the world because almost every single one of them was, around that storyline. All right, so Nyasha loves medical shows, which I find interesting because you have medical issues. Interesting. Beth likes science fiction movies, doesn't watch happy movies or sad movies, and you rarely let people see you get emotional. That makes perfect sense. Nana is saying that for her, Bird Box was awful. I actually have no particular wish to see it, I must admit. Yeah, it's all those princes running around Snowflake Manor and, Jingle Bells Falls and whatever. Right. So Nana likes the medical ones as well. I must admit, I normally don't like medical ones that much. I think I've spent too much time in hospital, but I do like New Amsterdam. I think that is really an incredible show. Now, Beth saying she loved Bird Box. You see, it depends on who you are. And so you see, it's I believe that it says different things for different people, right? That we all love it for different reasons. I had to look at why do I like New Amsterdam when I normally am not that into medical things. I think because New Amsterdam is more about the people than it is about the blood and gore of hospitals. Does that make sense? I find New Amsterdam is more about the actors and what's going on in their lives rather than all, while there are obviously people involved or the people involved, it's not about so much blood and gore, it's about humanity. And I think that is why I enjoy it. I've tried to work out why do I like detective and mystery things. Yes, it's a great character study and very well acted as well, in my view. And funny enough, very well acted on many layers down. I'm thinking about the top lead, male and female, are excellent, but it's like all the way down. It's very well cast in terms of characters. They're all very believable. Even to the lady in the coffee shop, it's just like, this is just like somebody did a really good job on picking these people. So what I'm trying to point out, though, is, you can tell a lot about somebody in terms of of what they watch. Now, I know that when I had all my stuff out before I downsized, I had more than one person say to me, "One day I would love to sit here and have you tell me where every one of these things came from." And I didn't realize it, but in my house, I had various little things. There's a tiny little Buddha in my house, or there was until I packed it up. In my house, you would find a tiny little leprechaun. In my house, you would find a small African drum. You know what I mean? And everywhere around my house, I had these little mementos of where I had been or lived or whatever. And I hadn't realized just how many of them I had in different places. I still have, for example, hold on one second. Beth, I'm going to get onto that in a second because that's an important one. But I still have this in my house, and I brought this with me from Africa. I'd had it in Africa for at least 10 years, I think, before I came to Canada. But it's a little thing for dusting, your computer, or I have mine in the kitchen. And so I realized that I've now had this for close on 50 years. Isn't that amazing? And it's just a very small thing. All right. So, hi, Jenny. How am I today? I'm awesome. Thank you. You're studying for your citizen test for which country? So the question is, why would I keep something like this for 50 years? And I think that is what that's why I have people say to me, I would love to know the history behind each one of the little things I see. And I just think she is really cute. And that is, to me, it's very interesting. So, Jenny, I'm trying to find out which country you're trying to get citizenship into. Beth, while we're waiting for that answer from Jenny, Beth's saying that she had difficulty watching happy movies. She said she used to cry when she saw happy people in a movie, so I stopped watching them. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it wasn't your reality. Probably. All right. I would like to suggest, Beth, happy was what you'd always wanted to be. And therefore, when you saw the happy role model, you probably felt sad that you had never experienced that. So, yeah, it was something you couldn't see. No, you couldn't relate to it, probably. That was your idea of Fantasyland because, you probably did you get angry, Beth, seeing it and going, "That's not what real life is like," and get angry about it? Yes, I can imagine you getting angry about that. Did you watch or read the book Bridges of Madison County? How many of you have read that book? And it was later turned into a film with Meryl Streep and Robert Redford, I think. Yeah. No, no, no. Clint Eastwood, was it? Clint Eastwood and Meryl Streep, I think. Yeah. So You know, when I read the book originally, I found it absolutely amazing to read the book. And I had a male friend at the time in my life. And I said to him, "You really should read this book because it's a classic. It's going to be a classic, and people are going to ask you all the time if you've read it. So I suggest you read it." You know, there's certain books that you know are going to be absolutely classical. And this, I always thought when I read Bridges of Madison County that you know that was going to be one. And the funny thing was, he was the head of a big corporation and all sorts of things. And he actually picked up the book at the airport the next time he went through the airport and was doing a long flight. And he read it. And then he phoned me from overseas and said, "You know, there are days in my life when I really hate you as a friend." And I said, "Yes. What happened?" He said, "I read the book." I said, and he said, "I felt like such an idiot crying in first class." You know, and I said, "Well, what it tells me about you that I didn't know before is you actually have that humanity within you. And it's nice to know that it is there because you hide it so well." And so, you know, it is interesting. You know, when you choose to read, um, what do you choose to read? And you know, it all tells people about who you are. And I think I was mentioning to you that I'm busy. I think I'm on 4 books now, not 3. Um, hang on a second, because one of them's not in. I think I'm on 4. Pretty sure. I haven't got the Kindle app on my phone. Anyway, I'm reading 3 on Kindle and 1 that's outside Kindle. So, and why? 2 of them are on emotional intelligence because we talk about it every week. So I'm trying to make sure that I get nice information. I hope that you enjoy for the broadcasts. And then I'm reading 1 book, as you know, about John McCain, and 1 book about the Bob Woodward book about Trump, which is fascinating to read. All right. So Beth's saying, when you think the grass is always greener in everybody else's life, it's hard to watch movies that portray that. Yes, I agree with you, Beth. Um, the same as I've always said, you know, the world is full of happy people when you're alone. You know, it is amazing how when you're alone you notice couples. You know, the world is full of happy couples. You know, when you're alone, but you don't notice them when you're happy. You don't notice them, but when you're alone, you really notice them. Which bit of news? There've been about 3 different bits of news on Trump today. So which bit, Nana? I think the fact that he telegraphed the fact that Nancy Pelosi and the delegation was on its way to Afghanistan was horrific. And, you know, that he stopped the flight, and then that he then telegraphed the fact that she was taking a commercial flight. That was really asking for trouble. And oh, the bit from Buzzbox, I believe, Nana, if I heard it correctly, that Mueller has said that what Buzzbox talked about was not necessarily the truth. Now, they didn't say it was a lie. I get a feeling that there is some truth in it, but not exactly as it was reported. Do you know what I'm saying? Did anybody else hear that? I just saw something that came up. I was a bit busy today with broadcasts and things, but at one point I went in and I saw my television, and I keep it on, the news. Oh yeah, Muller's got a Muller has a whole lot on him, his family, and his friends. No doubt about that. Hi, Jamie. All right, so let us just go back to our emotional intelligence things. The other thing I would like you to do is check with your friends. All right. If you're really interested in self-awareness, what do your friends value in you? All right. And what do they notice about you when you go under stress? All right. Maybe you think you do this, but what do your friends say you do when you go under stress? Be interested. And the other question I would ask your friends on a regular basis is why do they keep you as a friend? All right. There are times when I literally have gone to my friends. I don't know if any of you can relate to this. I've literally gone to my friends and said, you just got to explain something to me. And they go, what's that, Sal? And I go, why on earth do you have me as a friend? Because, it's like, seriously? Do any of you have that moment where you're going, I really can't understand why anybody would want me as a friend when I'm doing this sort of stuff. But it is interesting to ask them. And, it's amazing how consistent the answers are. What surprised me is most people say the same sort of things. And so it's important that you do that. Now, who said that? Oh, Nana, in terms of your comment about Mullah taking his time, yes, the reason is because Mullah has all this information and he's just coming closer and closer. And the closer he gets to the core, he's getting even more information that's busy confirming what he heard out here. Each step he takes closer in, Nana, he is getting more and more confirmation of what he heard a year ago. And now it's getting more solid. First of all, it was one person said it, then two, then three, and then they started to link it together. I think it's going to be horrific, is what I believe. But again, I have to say, I am not surprised. I am not at all surprised. I think I said that at the very beginning, that I could not understand why the American people voted him in. But because if you have watched him over the years, you know who he is. And he never pretended to be anything else. So, and the other thing is, you have to look at the fact that he never made it into society. Do you know what I mean? He might have made it into the millions or whatever, but he never was accepted by society. Did you notice that? He got himself into important things, but people didn't like him. You very rarely found people who really liked him. They invited him because he was supposedly influential, and that was because he donated a lot. But people didn't like him as a person. And he hated that. He hated that he was not accepted within society. Yes, he does think that he's above all of us, but, he's going to find out that maybe that isn't so. So in terms of what you're saying, I can understand why it's taken Mueller so long. It was the same thing for any of you who were around for the Nixon years. If any of you were around for when the Nixon scandal happened, funny enough, it's as bad as the Nixon thing was, it was nothing like as bad as this. Do you know what I mean? But by comparison, what Nixon did is nothing compared to what's going on here. I think we're going to find out that Russian money supported the campaign, that Russian money supported the inauguration costs, that Russian money did this, and I think we're going to find out that everything in our worst nightmare is true. Yes, well, that's who Mueller is, and that's why I thought the interesting thing, though, and I hadn't planned to talk politics today, but let me just say this because I did find it interesting. The new attorney general that is being vetted at the moment, I thought he was very interesting to listen to. And if President Trump thought that he was going to be a yes man to him, I guess he knows better now. And I don't know if any of you watched the confirmation hearings, but boy, he definitely wasn't towing the line there. I'm going, oh, he's going to be in big trouble when he gets back to the office. So, but I liked him better for it, I must say. The other thing is some of the horror stories that are coming out now about the people being separated at the border, how that came about is, it's terrifying to my mind. So, it's not fun. All right, I'm going to go on to some quotes now from Louise Hay. I think I covered the main points of the emotional intelligence that I wanted to. Right. So, do you understand? Until we know ourselves, we cannot possibly have emotional intelligence. We need to be able to own who we are. And none of us is perfect. We have good points and not so good. And when you can embrace all of them, then you are actually a lot more together. Be very careful of people who pretend that they are only good people. Do you know what I mean? That they never have a bad opinion. To me, it's like, people who have authenticity actually also have faults. Right? They are human enough to have faults. And that is, I think, one of the interesting things. One of the arguments I always had about YouTube and everything that happened in social media was there were too many perfect people, and that was spinning a lie to the next generation. And that always worried me. All right, so I'm going to do some quotes from Louise Hay. And by the way, do any of you have any aches and pains at the moment? Because I thought if you haven't read her book, I would give you some things that she says about different parts of your body and what they represent. So if you've got Jody, I was looking up lymphoderma, things to do with the lymphs system. Do you want to know what she said about that? I thought you might be interested in that, but if you're not, okay, I'll get to the lower back next. But before that, do you want to know about the lymph system? Yeah. She said lymph problems are a warning that your mind needs to be recentered on the essentials in life, that of love and joy. And would you say that it's true that having that happen has forced you in lots of ways to recenter on that? Because I thought, wow, that's really interesting. All right, your lower back. Bees are right back here somewhere, Jody. So hold on one second. What Louise Hay said, this is from the book, You Can Heal Your Life. Yeah, I thought you'd like that. All right, so lower back. Hang on a second. She said, I'll get there eventually. Back issues, rounded shoulders, helpless, lower back pain, fear of money or lack of financial support. What do you think? Bingo. All right. Anybody else got aches and pains? Kimmy, asthma. Let me see would you like to know what she said? Okay. I'm not getting an answer from Kimmy, so let me see. Oh, I know. Really, I want to tell you something. I studied her work for a long time, and I still, whenever I get back issues, I always ask myself, where am I not standing tall? What is it that I don't have the backbone for at the moment? Because it amazes me how often what she had to say was spot on in my life. So I'm just trying to find whether Kimmy's still with us, but I guess not. Because I wanted to tell her about asthma. All right, Beth, you have one toe that is longer than the others, and it hurts all the time. Okay, let me look up toe. That's a long way down. It was a fascinating book, and I kept it with me. Hang on a second. Toes. All right, so the toes represent the minor details of the future. All right, so if you've got a pain in your toe, or if you're saying one toe, is whatever. What are the picky little things that you are worried about in the future? Because that normally is related. All right, so migraine. You're not the only one with migraine problems, Isabel. So let's see what she said about migraine. I may have to look for headaches. Migraine headaches. A dislike of being driven, resisting the flow of life, and even sexual fears. They all come under migraine. So one of those probably makes sense to you. All right? Anybody else got one? And I will. Did I cover everybody's that was going? All right, Kimmy, do you want to hear what she said about asthma, just so that you can see if it relates? Because it actually is amazing. It'll probably let you know whether it's true or not. It's a pleasure, Isabel. All right, what she said about asthma, Kimmy, was asthma has to do with smothered love, inability to breathe for oneself, feeling stifled, and also suppressed crying. So there's an inner suppression going on that that you can't be who you are for whatever reason. Does that make sense to you at all, Kim? Yes, bladder stuff definitely. Hold on one second. All right, let me see what she has there. Just hold on, I got to find it. I know I saw it as I was going through. Bladder problems, anxiety, holding on to old ideas, fear of letting go, and being pissed off. Make sense, Nyasha? So, the incredible thing was that when I studied what she had to say in terms of you can heal your life, it was very interesting stuff to me. And it has helped me a great deal. And I will put a link for you guys in the resource section so that you can look at the book. I think there's a Kindle version and there's probably an audio version as well. I did put up, we spoke at lunchtime about the fourth wise man, and I did put up the link to that for you. All right, so I'm going to read a couple of things that Louise Hay said in terms of your life. It's all true. I know, Nyasha, it's scary. It is really scary how true the stuff is. Hydrocephalus. What is that in English? Maybe it's here. Hang on a second. Let me see if it's here. No, we got hyperactivity, hyperventilation, and hyperglycemia. Yeah, something, the interesting thing, Kimmy, is that you can see it now. All right? Once you can see it, it starts to change. Yes, the pain in our life is what we create with our belief system and what we think. This is from Louise Hay's book called You Can Heal Your Life. Very well-known book. It was light sensitivity. I'm not sure if that's in here, but let me see. And then I'm going to get onto some quotes, because you guys can look this up for yourself. I'm going to say eyes then, Beth, because it doesn't have light sensitivity per se. The eye represents the capacity to see clearly past, present, and future. In terms of astigmatism, it is eye trouble, like the I, as in I am. The fear of reality, or seeing the self. And myopia is the fear of the future. So really anything to do with the eyes that is about seeing stuff, right? You don't want to see stuff. But you are beginning to, which is the interesting thing. Wow, and that's the other side of it, all right? I think that's the symptom that you have from it, all right? That if I keep the lights off, I won't see what needs to be cleaned. Do you understand? And then, Beth, I'm going to throw a 2x4 at you. Are you ready for this? Okay, so can you see, if you think about that, and I think it was a great explanation about you like to be in the dark because when the light's on, you can see what needs to be cleaned. That means that light to you means guilt. Does that make sense? For you being able to see, right, equals guilt. I'm going to see what I haven't done. I'm going to beat, something I'm going to beat myself up on because I can see something that needs to be done and I haven't done it. And that was in your life a very bad thing, to not do what you were told to do. And so to me, I think your light sensitivity is linked into that. I think it's very interesting in your case with your history. And I think the really wonderful day is going to be when you can look at a room and go, yeah, I can see it needs cleaning, but I'm not doing it. I have to say this, Beth, because when I first met Yvonne, she was OCD like you cannot believe. And, she's still a very tidy person, but she does not need to get up every 5 seconds and clean anymore. Yes, Beth, to see things clearly is difficult for you. You used to hide in the dark where it was safe. Aww. It's called, I'm going to put it on the resource page, Nyasha. I'm just typing it for you so you can see it. You Can Heal Your Life, and it's written by somebody called Louise Hay. And it is scary clever, in my view. Everybody, when she first wrote it, everybody sort of poo-pooed it, and said, oh, this is new age stuff. And, the funny thing is, all these years later, I still find it fascinating because I'm amazed whenever I've looked it up for somebody and said, hey, Louise Hay said this is about this. Is that true for you? And they go, wow, how did you know? And I'm going, no, Louise Hay said that. So, and all I did was I just got to, there is a place that I found online where you can just, literally scroll through and it's got, all the different things, pages and pages of it, that you can just look up what's going on in your life. Right. And, it's interesting, Kimmy, that, you lived a life as well of trying to prove yourself to people. And so I think in a way you and Beth have a lot in common. Well, I'm delighted that Rick made you a snack Could you ask him to quickly get one for me as well? By the way, Nana, please tell Rick that I was just looking at the different videos and, um, you know, the cleaning of the windshield wiper thing still is, an incredible video. And every time I see it, I laugh and I go, "Yep, there we go." But it's amazing how many naysayers there are. But it was really cute because I'm going, what was that, 6 years ago that I put that out, and it's still up there. So here's what she said, and I tried to find some quotes that I thought, yeah, you can't be everything to everyone. Yeah, isn't that the truth? All right. So listen to what she had to say. Remember, in the vast infinity of life, all is perfect, whole, and complete. And so are you. How many of you really need to hear that? In the vast infinity of life, all is perfect, whole, and complete. And so are you. And Louise also said, the gateways to wisdom and learning are always open. And more, I am choosing to walk through them. Barriers, blocks, obstacles, and problems are personal teachers giving me the opportunity to move out of the past and into the totality of possibilities. If you scroll back, Nana, I typed it out. So it's not very far back if you look. Louise Hay. Hay as in hay for horses. And I will put it on the resource page on the DearMamaSal.com page. It'll be up there by tomorrow. Louise Hay also said, no person, no place, and no thing has power over us, for we are the only thinkers of our mind. When we create peace and harmony and balance in our lives, we will find it in our lives. Think about that. No person, no place, and no thing has power over us, for we are the only thinkers in our mind. When we create peace and harmony and balance in our minds, we will find it in our lives. How do you like that one? And she also said, I believe we create our own lives, and we create it by our thinking, feeling patterns in our belief system. I think we're all born with this huge canvas in front of us and the paintbrushes and the paint, and we choose what to put on that canvas. Right? We choose the life we live, is what she says. Now, this is difficult to understand in a lot of ways, but I always say to people, you understand that my life, both good and bad, brought me here in front of you. If my life hadn't had the bits in it that it did, I wouldn't be sitting here today talking to you. Yeah, Beth, it is a difficult one to process, right? But you see, we create our reality in a lot of cases. Nyasha, I think you can already see, because you've been doing some great work on yourself already, that the reason why your mom constantly said, grow up, you act like a child, is because you did. No, Nana, we cannot create what others do. No, I quite agree. We only can respond to what others do. We are, as we know, responsible for our reactions to what others do and our thinking. You see, and I think you'd find this from anybody that really is very much in has a peaceful mind is that what the people around them do means nothing to them. You know, I've had a couple of haters come up out of the woodwork this week, Nana, on my channel. And, you know, in each case, I've read it and I just smiled and I wrote to them and said, thank you for your input. I appreciate the time, and left it. I don't need to defend myself. I don't need to react and say, you're rude or whatever. It's say, hey, thank you for your input. I truly believe that everybody has the right to an opinion. Doesn't mean I have to agree with it, but I do value the fact that they bother to take the time to let me know. Does that make sense? It's like the brushes for the makeup, right? I didn't know until then that there was a right brush to do that. Why respond at all? Because I appreciate every viewer. It's like I want them to know I appreciate the fact they bothered to tell me. So Louise Hay also said, love is the great miracle cure. Loving ourselves works miracles in our lives. Yes, I think the day that you can agree to disagree, you've learned a lot. All right? But I still totally believe that everybody's entitled to their opinion. So I don't just believe that people that like me are entitled to their opinion. I think everybody is entitled to their opinion. We live in a society that allows that. Yes, Kimmy's saying that she grew up in a house where her mother was very controlling and manipulative and abusive. Right? You learn a lot of sad things with that. I totally understand that. I grew up in an alcoholic world, and boy, there are a lot of things there that you learn the hard way. You seen a calendar that showed some of the paintings that you did? That is awesome. Where did you do that? I think that's great, Nana. You must be so proud that both of you got featured. Oh yes, the year in review. Yes, I've seen that. Right, Niasha's saying, I never liked hearing I'm a child comment from her. But when I actually hear it from you and the explanation behind your statement you gave me, I'm not going to be offended anymore because it's all true. Yay, Niasha! Niasha, if you can see that, you understand you have taken a huge leap. Hi, Bernice, good to see you. You've taken a huge step into reality. Wow. Who is they, Nana? A year in review. I saw that, I've seen that in Facebook where they've put my year in review. Okay. So, what I wanted to say, Niasha, is if you can see that the 2x4 is actually the truth, that is huge. Now, it doesn't mean you have to get it all fixed by tomorrow. All right? That's wonderful, Nana. I'm very, very happy for you both. Do you get paid for the input? Yes, it's sad, but it's true. But that doesn't make it bad. That makes it, hello, welcome to growing up. No, you know something? I assure you, Jody didn't like it when I told Jody that she was controlling too many people. Beth didn't like it when when I talked to her about the fact that she controls too many people. It's like we all, have to face that reality in our lives. And it's not just you. But I've always said to people, that are sick and tired, what are you sick and tired of? And Louise Hay taught me that. That was one of the things she taught me. Whenever you are sick and tired, ask yourself, what are you sick and tired of? Yeah, and Jody, I think that's wonderful, really, that you can say that, right? That for sure you didn't like it at the time, but you value it so much now. I always think about Beth. Beth, I hit you hard with a couple of 2x4s, and what amazed me was you didn't run. It told me a lot about your character, that you were prepared to actually look at it. Nana, I think it's wonderful, honey, that is published in a hard copy. I can tell how proud you are of that. What I asked was, did they pay you anything for that? And where did they get those pictures? Or did you submit them? Well, you know something, Nyasha, it's really important that you can see that. Wow, that's gorgeous. Thank you, Beth. Beth says, when Sal gave me a 2x4, it kind of hurt, but then it felt like a hug. Well, Sakura, the 2x4 with you was, how you react to other people's reactions. And you're working on it constantly. And so are we all. We are all working on it. Who is they, Nana? I'm trying to find out who they is. You keep saying they are publishing it. They came to our house. So they came to your house and said, what do you have to submit? And is it for your local area or where you live that they're doing the year in review? I still don't quite get who they are. Is it the year in review internationally, or is it the year in review in your neighborhood? Well, Beth, if you can see both sides of that, then I am a happy person, right? Beth saying, which I needed both, an eye-opener experience along with only love for my well-being. I'm glad that you can feel both. Well, I'm glad that you can see that, guys. And the reason that I do it is because I can always remember, Beth, sitting at a dinner table and something was going on with my husband and I was talking about it. And I always remember this guy whose house we were at looking at me. And he looked at me across the table, Beth, and he said, Sal, I just learned something about you I didn't know. And I said, oh, what's that? And he said, you're a victim. Now, here I was, the top of my tree, business-wise, doing this, that, and the other. And here I've got this guy telling me I'm a victim. And I said, what made you say that? Seek first to understand. And he said, I'm listening to what you're telling me, and you have done nothing about it. That makes you a victim. Well, Nyasha, I don't say that I'm always right. But that's why I always ask permission first, if you notice, Nyasha. I will always ask, I have a 2x4, are you willing to hear it? Because I think it's really important that people get to choose whether they want to hear it or not. Well, Jody's saying, I am a much more evolved person now, a complete person since meeting Sal and the peeps. I'm continually working on myself, and I love that. Yeah, I know, Beth. Sorry, Beth, I'm laughing, Beth, because I remember that day. All right, so Beth saying your words to me was drama queen. It affected me the most. I know, but yeah, you were. All right. Yes, because the explanation was given. And I think, that's a really important thing for you, Nyasha. I think you're a very smart cookie once you understand things. The problem is when somebody just insults you or puts you down and doesn't explain A, why they're saying it, or B, what behavior. See, one of the things that I think you could do really well with your mom, for example, is when she says you are useless, or when she says, you're acting like a child, if you could learn to take a really deep breath and very quietly say to her, what is it about my behavior you'd like to see me change? And to say it genuinely out of interest. And, genuinely out of interest, because that to me is really what you need to find out. I think your mom is really cares for you, but doesn't know how to express that. Probably because her mom never expressed it. Nana's asking, what would you think if we judged you the way you judge us? I'm sorry you see it that way, Nana. What would I think? I'd think that you cared. Right? Because the same, yes, you were, yeah, Jody, but Jody, think about that. You didn't know what an enabler was, I think. All right. So how it wasn't so much a judgment of you about it was more about, do you know what an enabler does? And do you understand the difference between an enabler and a friend? So to me, I think that we all fall into these traps, and 9 times out of 10 it's because we don't see what's going on. And that's what happens when you go to therapy, right? The therapist's job is to listen to what you're saying and to work out what is it that this person isn't seeing. So, I'm sorry that that you feel that it is a judgment. It's not my intent. My intent is to pass on knowledge. So I'm glad that some of you can see that. I want to tell you, Isabel, I totally agree with you. Nyasha's done some incredible work in the last 3 weeks. No, it's Nana. It's your opinion. And you are entitled to your opinion, honey. All right? I thank you for being brave enough to give it. But I am deeply, deeply sorry that you see it as judgment of people. And but that's your right. I want to tell you something, Nyasha, that we will be here to help you. What we ask you to do for yourself is literally take baby steps. That's what we all do every week. We take another baby step in the right direction. You cannot fix what has taken 30 years to no, Nana, and you didn't like me calling somebody Rick or Dick either. So I understand that. No, you need the hug. It's you that needs the hug, I think. To me, it's like, Nana, you are entitled to your opinion, and I will stand here and fight for your right to give it. I really believe that. So to me, if you continue to do the work on yourself, if you continue to be able to see uh, this stuff in yourself, then you will continue to grow. And that's the important thing. And Louise Hay also said, if your mother did not know how to love herself, or your father didn't know how to love himself, then it would be impossible for them to teach you to love yourself. They were doing the best they could with what they have been taught as children. Nyasha, can I read that for you one more time? Because when I read that quote, I thought of you. Nyasha, Let me know if you would like me to read that again, because I quite agree, Beth. It's very important to know. If your mother didn't know how to love herself, or your father didn't know how to love himself, then it would be impossible for them to teach you to love yourself. They were doing the best they could with what they had been taught as children. So I look at it and, I look at it and I go, how could they possibly pass on to you something they didn't have? All right? There is no way they could pass that on to you because they didn't have that knowledge. And so part of what I love about the group here is that we are all, we're all taking steps towards whatever goals we want to take, knowing that we're learning as we go along the way, knowing there is no quick fix, knowing that each day will bring us a different layer of our onion. And Louise Hay also said, learn from the past and let it go. Live in the today. All right? Learn from the past, but let it go. What happened yesterday, last week, last month, let it go. Live in today. She also said, forgiveness is for yourself because it frees you. It lets you out of that prison that you put yourself in. Forgiveness is for yourself because it frees you. It lets you out of the prison that you put yourself in. Have any of you ever been in that prison where you hated somebody, or you wanted revenge on somebody, or, whatever it was, you had, this incredible feeling about them. And, you realize in the end, it was your stuff, not theirs. Kimmy, a 2x4 is merely when I'm listening to somebody say something, and what I do is I try and take them out of the emotion and into the reality. So, for example, there was a time very early on when I first met Beth that everything was drama. Right? And so that's what I said to her one day. What I'm hearing and seeing, Beth, is that you're a drama queen. You actually get your jollies from drama. And, she didn't like it, but she could look at it and have a look at that in her life. So it's really important that you understand, Nyasha, that you are not alone. Everybody in the world is learning if they choose to, all right? And some will learn faster than others, and it isn't a competition. I've always said, Nyasha, because I really, really believe it, that your speed is the right speed for you. Some people will hear things and get it quickly, and then the next thing, it'll take them years. How many times did I have to hear that I had the ability to give up smoking, and it took me a lifetime? It wasn't because I was stupid, Nyasha. It was because I had to deal with the stuff that caused me to smoke. Does that make sense? And when I first listened to people, when I first listened to you, Nyasha, how many times did I hear, well, the reason for this, and this is because I can't see or I can't do. And you've proved to yourself already you can do. You are more than capable of things when you want to do them. And that is all that I wanted you to see, is that you're more than capable. Louise also said, if I want to believe that life is lonely and that nobody loves me, then that is what I will find in my world. You see, it's the law of attraction. If I want to believe that my life is lonely and that nobody loves me, then that is what I will find in my world. I think that's so true. Um, well, I look at it and I think about Beth, who got out into the real world and found out she had a lot to give, and loved giving it. I think that's even better. To make people smile, to make them feel valued. Beth is really good at that. And also, she is an incredibly diligent worker, and she deserves any promotion she gets. I know that. Right, Nyasha is saying, I'm very slow to get things. I disagree, Nyasha. I think that's a story you tell yourself. I don't think you're very slow to get things. And that is not my experience of you. And I don't think anybody in this room would say that either. You think about that, I don't think you're slow. I think you're very persistent, and I admire that in you. We are all a work in progress, yes. All of us. And, to me, my job is to be here as the facilitator, not the guru. All right? I see that as my job. My job is to facilitate this. I don't know it all. But I do love doing the research and hopefully trying to find things that will make more sense to people. That to me is my passion, right? It's to take some complicated type learning and be able to talk about it in a way that hopefully makes some sense to people. Louise also said, know that you are always safe. And also know that it's possible to move from the old to the new easily and peacefully. Wow, Beth, that is incredible. Beth is saying, when I was at my lowest, I even planned that if I ever died, I didn't want a funeral. I didn't even want people to know I had died. I even wanted that to be hidden. I'm so different now. I'm living now. I think what a great thing to be able to say, Beth. What an incredibly great thing to be able to say about yourself. That is how much work you have done on yourself. Yes, Nyasha, when you decide to do something properly, and with an adult mind, you do it. I want to tell you with Beth, not only have I admired your honesty, but I've also admired your courage in talking your honesty, because you don't talk about easy stuff, Beth. Right? You talk about really difficult stuff. And you are absolutely down the line on it. You don't sugarcoat it, you don't do whatever. And you also, I've watched you week after week after week, hear the concepts and then start looking at them and laughing at, you have the ability to laugh at yourself. I think that is one of the greatest gifts that you can have. It's like Jodie's 2 brain cells and my other 2, and we always joke about the fact that when we can put them together, we're quite good. It's like, but really, I'm down to 2 and so is Jodie. But, if we can put the 2 together, my 2 and hers, we get 4. We get things done. And so, oh, by the way, Beth, I wanted to explain why sometimes it takes a bit longer for me to get the chat down. And I do thank you for checking on that for me. I really do thank you for that kindness. What happens is that YouTube has started a new thing a few months ago. And before, I used to be able to come off the broadcast and immediately disable the chat screen. Now they change something. So the moment I finish the broadcast, it starts to process. There is no gap in between. And it starts to process. And the moment it starts to process this live broadcast, I can't get there to do the disabled chat. Does that make sense, Beth? Well, now we're telling the truth a bit better now, Nyasha, right? I love learning new things. I am persistent, and maybe that's why I learn things fast. Maybe, or definitely. You see, I think in a lot of things I've seen with you, Nyasha, I know an awful lot of people that would have quit on things before you did. But Beth, still keep doing what you're doing, because that there's the day that you don't do it, it'll be the day that I've missed it. So I always see it as an act of love, and I thank you for it. And Louise also said, it seems to me that everyone on this planet whom I know or have worked with is suffering from self-hatred and guilt to one degree or another. The more self-hatred and guilt we have, the less our lives work. The less self-hatred and guilt we have, the more our lives work on all levels. Can any of you relate to that? That if we're constantly beating up on ourselves, if you're constantly hiding in the shadows, your life is not going to be happy, because it's not who you are. And so to me, part of the job that we all have is to be authentic who we are and realize we're not going to please everybody doing that. Kimmy knows that. Beth, you know that. You could never please everybody, whatever you do, Beth. Jody knows that. But you can be true to who you are, and people will not always like you for it, but they will learn to adapt if they want to, or not if they don't want to. And so to me, that is one of the things that I would urge us all to be aware of, right? Our job is not to make friends with everybody. That's not our role. But I do believe that we all have the ability to make friends. What is it that famous meme says, if the people you're around don't get you, they're not your people. It's just like, so to me, it's like, it's an important thing to understand. So all the events that you have experienced in a lifetime up to this moment have been created by your thoughts and beliefs that you have held in the past. They were created by the thoughts and words you used yesterday, last week, last month, last year, 10, 20, 30, 40 or more years ago, depending on how old you are. I'm going to read that again. Take it in, all right? All the events you have experienced in your lifetime up to this moment have been created by your thoughts, beliefs, and that you have held in the past. They were created by the thoughts and words you used yesterday, last week, last month, last year, 10, 20, 30, 40 or more years ago, depending on how old you are. And so you look at it and you go, one of the things about life is that I've often said it's really interesting for those people who have faith. They can look at their Bible, the Quran, whatever faith it is that they follow, and see the same teachings that Louise Hay is talking about. They just say it a different way. I disagree, Nana. I don't know where you say that you can't change, because she said earlier that, if we need to forget about the past and be in the present. So I didn't hear anywhere that she said you can't change. Quite the opposite. You can change your thinking tomorrow. Or you can hold on to your previous beliefs tomorrow. That is your choice. Yes, I understand that, Nana. Um, so what I would ask you all to see is this quote that I'd like to end with today. She said, "Love is always the answer to healing of any sort." All right? We all have had good things and bad things happen to us. We all get up every morning and hopefully are grateful that we're breathing and that our eyes work if they do, or that we can see as well as we can if our eyes are not working that well. I think, Jody, you wake up in the morning and are pretty pleased to be able to still see Lionel there. Uh, I think that when we can see that the only change that will ever happen in our lives is the change we choose to make for ourselves. And if we are self aware, which is the discussion that we have about emotional intelligence, an emotionally intelligent person can look at themselves and see themselves as perfectly imperfect. Do you understand what I'm saying? That they can see their good points and their bad points and know that's okay. That they're happy to have the good points and they're working on the ones that aren't so good. And if we can continue to be open to that, we will grow as people. And that is really my wish for everyone, including myself. I have no idea what life will bring me tomorrow. I have no idea what results the CAT scan will show. I have no idea whether, the work I'm doing on my diabetes will prove successful. I do know that I will do things, and in doing it, I will learn so much more. I am already documenting the things that I'm doing and the results I'm getting in the hope that maybe in some small way my experience will help another human being. And to me, that gives me energy. I have to look at who I am, and I think at some level, I know that I was always a teacher. Whether I was a leader of people or whether I wanted to just teach them things. That is something I can look at myself and say throughout my life, all the years when I go back and look at all the different things I've done. At some level, I was always teaching. And it's not that I was that smart or that clever. It was I always had that wish to pass on what I knew. And I do believe that is our job. I said about the lady that I met in the hospital for that moment, I said that I really felt it was my job to be a conduit in that moment, and that was to pass on love. I had to stop and pass that love on to her. That was what I heard. And so I would ask you all to look for those opportunities. Yes, Nyasha, by accepting our bad qualities, because there are no bad qualities in some ways. If you think about it, you would not have these bad qualities if you had been taught differently. Does that make sense? If you had been given the knowledge earlier, those things you call your bad qualities wouldn't be there. So I believe so sincerely from the bottom of my heart that all we do here at Dear Mama Sal is to teach people. Are you asking that you want to share, Nana, or you want somebody to share? So to me, sometimes the smallest act of love can make a difference in somebody's life. And also sometimes that act of honesty makes a difference in people's lives. Forgiveness is the key to moving forward, Beth. You're quite right. You forgive your parents. You forgive yourself for holding your true self back. Yeah. I grow and learn every day and hope to continue to strive to be happy and to spread love. That's wonderful. I have a wish to share. Yes, that is true, Nana. That is, I've always believed that, wasn't it the movie Pay It Forward? If any of you saw that movie, it's about, I'm a great believer that I was given the ability to make some things make sense for people. And if I don't use that ability to the good, then I am wasting that talent that I was given. So I don't believe that I know it all, and I don't believe that I have the answers to everything. But I do believe that I sometimes can make sense of some very difficult subject matter for people. And that is something I choose to do to the best of my ability. I can assure you that it takes, as you probably realize, it takes a lot of time to sit and think, okay, what am I going to do for this broadcast? Who am I going to use as the cornerstone for this broadcast? Who do I think will be of value to the viewers? And so if you've enjoyed some of Louise Hay's work, and if it makes sense to you, or if you want to learn more about what she believes, then please do so, right? Take the opportunity to do so. It doesn't help for Nana, Bernice. That's what she keeps trying to explain. Nana sees the 2x4 as cruel and mean. That is her right. So it is literally her right. So so let's not get down on Nana for the way she chooses to see that. All right. And for the rest of you, I will not stop giving you a 2x4. Just so we're clear. And when I see that it is there, and I will always continue to ask your opinion as to whether you would like to hear it or not. And that to me is equally, it is a choice whether you want to hear it or not. It is not that I'm going to just give it to you. And I could be wrong. And, I am not a perfect person either, but I do know that an awful lot of you have done some great work, and I'm so proud of you. So remember, love is always the answer to any healing of any sort. And remember that everybody learns at their own speed. And everybody perceives things in their own way based on their experiences. And that's okay. And when you can know that that is okay, then you will have found some level of peace. It's okay for so many things. And so I want to give you all a big hug and thank you for the work that you do. I thank you for trusting me enough to try and help. And as usual, if there are any people you would particularly like me to do broadcasts about, or, you've got any, people that you would like to hear quotes from, always let me know. And so what I would like you all to do is to take a really deep breath and know you are incredibly talented, wonderful people. And that you all have your own cross to bear, and we totally get that. And we will all learn our lessons at our own speed. And that is the joy. And when we can allow that to happen, we will be happy, because what other people do is their learning, right? And what we do is ours. So a big hug to you all. Thank you so much for being here. It is very possible that next week I will not be around for the broadcast. I still can't tell you for sure because I'm going to be in Vancouver at the end of the week. And I am the guest of Benji, and I never quite know what it is he's going to ask me to do. And so I'm pretty sure that I'm going to do what I can to do a broadcast somewhere in there, but I will let you know. So well done, Nyasha. I'm very, very proud of you for what you did this week. Congratulations on the cooking. You proved to yourself you can do things if you really want to. Yes, Bernice, he's coming to do a video influencers thing, so I'm going to be going to help him. And we're actually going to spend a bit of time together because we don't get a lot of chance to do that. So, Isabel, thank you for letting me know again that you came from Montreal. I did try and put it in somewhere clever this time, but you know, whether I'll be able to find it again will be the challenge. So, bonsoir and à bientôt, and thank you for your humor, and please keep warm. It sounds to me like that's really cold out there. For all of you that are caught in this terrible weather, please be careful and be prepared to stay warm. I send you all a huge hug and thank you for your participation. What you all need to know is that by talking your stuff, whatever it is, you have all helped one another. You know, Beth gets help by listening to Nyasha talk because she can see things. Bernice can listen to somebody else talking, and that relates to something she's got on her mind. And so, yes, I'm thinking about your walk at minus 40 degrees, and I'll be thinking of you when I'm doing my virtual walk across the Rocky Mountains. Why did I pick that route, Isabel? Only I could decide to walk over the Rocky Mountains for a mission. Have a wonderful time, everybody. I'm going to do a lot of work of my downsizing tomorrow. I should get most of the upstairs finished in the next week. I think I'm doing a really great job. And so I am looking forward to that achievement. This is DearMamaSal saying, look after one another, but most of all, remember that it's our job to look after ourselves and to learn our lessons along the way. So have a wonderful time, everybody. Make your life happy. That is your job. Bye-bye for now.